It happened over dinner. Not just any dinner, family dinner. The kind with candles, too many folding chairs, and stories flying from every direction. The kind that's supposed to feel safe, familiar, untouchable. But that night, safety took a backseat. Because sometimes, the people who are supposed to know you best throw the sharpest knives. I was sitting across the table from my younger brother, 22 years old, quiet, thoughtful, still figuring himself out. My older sister, 29, bold, commanding, a few drinks in, was arguing with him. It wasn't serious at first, just sibling banter. But the tone changed. The words got heavier. And then without warning, she said it. Shut up. I'm not going to argue with a 22-year-old virgin. The table fell into a kind of stunned silence. Not the dramatic kind you see in movies, where glasses shatter and gasps echo. This was worse. It was quiet, suffocating. You know those moments where time slows down? Where your heart rate spikes, but your body freezes? That was me. Watching my brother's face sink. Watching his shoulders curl in like he wanted to disappear. He hadn't said anything cruel to her. Not one personal jab. But she went for blood, and I saw it land. Maybe it was the alcohol. Maybe it was the pressure of losing the argument. Maybe she thought it was funny. But there's nothing funny about humiliating someone, especially your own brother, in front of family, friends, and extended relatives. I told her to grow up. I called her out. Told her she was making a scene and embarrassing herself. And what did she do? She doubled down. She looked around the room, smirking, and said, "Everyone knows he's a virgin. I didn't say anything wrong." And that's when I snapped. Because this wasn't just a stray comment. This was a pattern. My brother has struggled with confidence for as long as I can remember. He's soft-spoken, kind, and maybe a little late to certain milestones, sure. But mocking him for that? From his own sister? In front of people who should be lifting him up? I wasn't going to let it slide. So I said it. I turned to her and said, "You slept with well over 100 men in college. And since everyone knows, it shouldn't be a big deal, right?" Silence. Dead silence. Eyes widened, forks dropped. Someone coughed to cover the tension. I wasn't yelling. I didn't raise my voice. I said it calmly, firmly, like I was holding up a mirror. But then I saw her husband, his face, his reaction. He looked at her, then looked at me, and something inside him cracked. He stood up from the table, knocked over a chair, and walked out. Didn't say much, just that she had misled him, that she wasn't honest. She ran after him, and I was left sitting there, stunned, still trying to process the damage. And now the family's blaming me. They say I broke up her marriage, that I crossed a line, that I humiliated her. But let's rewind for a second. She humiliated my brother for something that's not shameful. She ridiculed him for a personal, intimate truth that had nothing to do with the conversation. She weaponized it. She tore him down to win a stupid argument, and she stood by it. I didn't start this fight, but I finished it. Was I cruel? Maybe, but I was honest. And that's the part no one wants to talk about. Because the truth is, everyone did know. Everyone at that table, minus her husband, had heard the stories. College wasn't that long ago. She was open about it at the time, proud even. It was never my secret to guard. I assumed, honestly, that her husband must have known. Apparently, he didn't. So now I'm the villain. But tell me, What kind of sister attacks her own brother's dignity in front of the people he already struggles to connect with? What kind of sister uses his insecurity, something deeply personal, as a punchline? And what kind of family sits there and lets her, but only erupts when the comeback hits her where it hurts? The hypocrisy stings. You want to talk about damage? Let's talk about my brother. The guy who sat in silence, trying not to cry in front of his uncles, cousins, and aunts. Who felt exposed, not because of his actions, but because someone he trusted chose to broadcast a piece of him to a crowd. If I hadn't said anything, if I had let it slide, what message does that send? That her cruelty is okay? That being a virgin is something to mock? No. I stood up. I said what no one else would. And maybe, yes, I hit too hard. But if you're going to play with fire, don't act surprised when you get burned. And let's not pretend her marriage was built on solid ground if a single sentence, if one hidden truth, could crack it open like that. I didn't lie to her husband. I didn't keep things from him. She did. All I did was hold up the truth. And now my brother, he's been quiet. But he thanked me later. Said no one had ever stood up for him like that before. That he felt, for once, like someone had his back. You know what that means to someone who constantly feels like he's falling behind in life? Like he's not enough? It means everything. But of course, the rest of the family doesn't see that. They see drama. They see division. They want to sweep it all under the rug and blame the loudest explosion instead of the slow, festering fire that caused it. And I get it. It's easier to be mad at the person who made the problem visible than the one who created it. But here's what I know. My brother walked out of that dinner with his dignity defended. And my sister? Well, maybe next time she'll think twice before swinging a verbal axe in a room made of glass. So, am I the asshole? Was I wrong to throw the truth back in her face? To defend my brother when no one else would? Or does standing up for someone, even if it hurts another, make you the villain by default? I don't know. But I do know this. Some truths are messy, some moments are ugly, and sometimes the right thing doesn't look kind, but it is just. So I'll ask you again. Was I the asshole? Sometimes, families mistake silence for peace. They think that avoiding conflict is the same as resolving it. But all silence does is make space for the loudest person in the room to dominate, and sometimes to destroy. In this story, a brother's dignity was on the line. Not his reputation, not his resume, just his right to feel safe in his own skin, in his own home, among his own people. And when that was attacked, his sibling stood up, not to be cruel, but to counter cruelty. Now, was it the most graceful move? No. It was brutal, honest, raw. But sometimes, the only thing bullies understand is their own tactics used against them. And sometimes, truth is the only tool we have to shatter a narrative built on shame. To everyone listening, ask yourself, how do we draw the line between standing up and lashing out? And when someone uses your silence to hurt others, what would you do? Comment below. Was the sibling justified? Was it a necessary defense or a step too far? This is AITA Story Vault. Real stories, real questions, raw humanity. We'll see you in the next one.